Thank you. I'm not a microphone man, so with me, I probably don't put it down eventually. But again, my name is Glyen Holmes, and I'm originally from Mississippi, a little small town called Durant, about an hour north of Jackson. Finished my Alcorn State University in agronomy, served some time in the Marine Corps, and I was an officer in the U.S. Army also. But I figured out the military was too confining. You know, I'm the type of person I got to go on the fly. You know, going down the road, if I see an old junk car on the by, you driving a Humvee, you can't pull over and do that. You got to keep moving. So I declined my commission and went back into the private sector. And I started working with, back then it was SCS, Soil Conservation Service. It was now NRCS. And actually started off as a student trainee in Minnesota. But anyway, ended up leaving Fort McCullough, Alabama, and going to a little town called Corinth, Mississippi. Worked there for a year, and then moved south to a little small town called Prentice, Mississippi. I lived in Hattiesburg for a while. Two of my kids was born there. Left, transferred to Florida to work in what NRCS called a PL 566 watershed, which was designed to work with minority and limited resource farmers to try to help them participate in the USDA program by having a higher cost share rate on a lot of the conservation practices that we apply. But I always seemed like I was bumping head with USDA. Always, they used to call me a maverick. My wife called me a prophet. I guess they two are the same depending on what side of the pole you're standing on. But a lot of the programs that we had was good programs, but they really wasn't financially suitable for small farmers, be black, white, blue, or purple. It just didn't really fit their pocketbook. You know, although they had cost share, the cost share a lot of times wasn't high enough for small farmers to actually access the programs. And a lot of times we go out and we go out to the same farm every year. You know, and he'll go to ASCS, he'll apply for this and that. But a lot of the smaller farmers just couldn't participate because the cost share rate was too high. And I'm gonna flash back again. When I started out in Mississippi, we had the first PL 566 program in the country. It was located in Jefferson County, and we paid 95% cost share. That was unheard of. We paid 95% cost share on certain practices. We built fences, not just borderline fences. We did cross fences. We built ponds. We planted grass. And during that time there, Mississippi was probably, we had the second largest employees for the interstate in the union, except I think California in terms of NRCS. We had 480 employees, which is a lot for the smallest state Mississippi is. But we had only about 80 black employees. And that was 1990, 1989, 90, and it was still pretty tense because promotion rates was pretty low for African Americans because, the stronghold was still there. I said good old boy was still in control of the entire promotion system and everything. So when I first started in that, really going to the field, I used to go to a lot of small farms and African American farmers that was in that watershed, and when I would pull up in the government truck, they would actually cry. They would actually cry because they never seen a young black man driving a government truck. And they used to pick at me all the time. And I used to go in and sit down with them and look at try to convince them to participate in the USDA program. Because a lot of time, someone that looked like me was sent out there to actually have them to sign paperwork that caused them to lose their land. And so I had to be real careful and mindful of how I presented USDA programs. And I had to win them over. But what amazed me so much was that how could a guy that never worked a public job, raised 8, 9, sometimes 15 kids, sent them to college, paid for 500 acres and a house, Now today we came about 1 acre. And I say that's the person we need to be studying, that person that was able to buy 500 acres, raise 8 to 15 kids. Matter of fact, I got one friend, her mother had 22 kids. All of them went to college but one. And all they ever did was cut pulpwood and sold sausages off killed hogs. And I tell people that those are people that we need to be studying now. You know, when you have Black History Month or a historical month, I mean, I don't hear about what Martin Luther King did and all the other guys. I want to hear about what Papa John did. How did he manage to buy 500 acres off of $10 a week and pay for it? And so my passion for what I do now basically started there. Now I was sort of blindsided because I said, well, if I could create an opportunity to try to help small farmers to participate in USDA program by creating some type of economical stimulus, if you want to call it, that might be the missing link. But what I failed to realize is that the kids didn't have a passion about farming, about rural life. The parents did. All they wanted to do was leave. They didn't want to have nothing to do with the land. Right. And so, you know, I went out fighting and bumping head with USDA, said, well, no, these are the programs we need to be doing. They said, no, we can't do that, and this, that. So at the same time, I wasn't only fighting with USDA, I was fighting with the kids because they didn't want no part of it. So here I am, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. And I did that from 1989, because about 89, 90, that's when a lot of the older farmers I was working with in Mississippi started dying. Because most of those guys were 75, 80 years old, didn't they? And so when I moved to Florida and started running the same kind of program, I met the same age group farmers, 65, 70, 80, and I've been in Florida now 20 years, so you can imagine how old the guys are now. Either they too old to farm or they died. But what I want to try to do is rush to create some type of marketing process to help them create more income on their farm. You know, I'm running against time. I'm running against time, and I'm fighting USDA on the same side. Because, you know, if you're a maverick, you know, people think you may be crazy. You hard-headed. And I'm probably a little bit of both of them. But I fought, and I fought, and I fought. I took a lot of annual leave to do a lot of work because I couldn't be on government time. You know, I went and, you know, so eventually the movement got too big. I developed the farm to school movement. And now, you know, when it's popular, everybody took on to it. It was started in 1995 in Marietta, Florida. We were the first one in the country to sell to schools. Now, you go on the internet and look up the timeline of farm to school, you're going to see Due North Florida Co-op. Now, the guys in California want to claim it, but they can't claim it. They had $1 million, we had $2. But we started it, and we still doing it, and I think they spent their $1 million, and they went on to another idea. But anyway, the reason for starting the farm to school was trying to create a market where small farmers could generate extra income so they could pay that additional cost share that USDA may have for certain programs. And when I worked for NRCS again, the system didn't really want to see me do what I was doing. So I went from being a soil conservationist to a district conservation to outreach coordinator. And I never forget, I used to ask the associate conservationist in Gainesville, I said, you know, but nobody knew what outreach was. He said, what you want me to do? Well, he said, well, just keep spreading the gospel. That's what he used to tell me. I said, all right. So I just did what I know to do, you know. They didn't want me to do it, but they couldn't tell me not to do it. So I worked hard for 6 years doing that, and we had a change of presidents. And usually when your president change, politics change. You know, and then people, sometimes folks get braver, sometimes they get softer. All depends on who in charge. But I knew then my days were limited as an outreach coordinator. I had my best days under President Clinton. It was a little more, he was a little more compassionate towards small farmers, no matter what color they were. And I knew then, after that 8 years, you know, the wolves gonna come. It was coming for Glyen because I had been too successful over that period of time. So no, as soon as President Clinton left office, the phone started ringing. We got to get rid of Glyen. We got to move. Well, there was a day late and dollar short, see, because I'm a forward thinker. I knew they were coming. You know, so I knew I had to have myself positioned to say, okay, USD, I'm going home. And that's what I did. I called them one day, and I said, okay, I'm tired of you all, you know, sending the IG to investigate me, say I'm doing this wrong, doing that wrong. So I said, I'm gonna go home. I said, if I believe in trying to convince the farmers to do what I'm doing, I should be able to do it myself. And I did. I stepped down. They tried to talk me out of it because I had 18 years in service. And so I stepped down, and I started doing what I'm doing now. I had started a New North Florida Co-op then, and I worked from Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama. I went to Arkansas, trying to galvanize small farmers. Now, USDA got a good program and good opportunity, but as small farmers, you got to unite. You ain't gonna win one-on-one. You just ain't. And it's deeper than what I can tell you up here, because I probably make a lot of folks mad. But it's deeper. You got a lot of cultural pitfalls that we got to deal with. A lot of cultural pitfalls. You know, USDA can have 100 programs here, but if you can't come together as a unit, you can't take advantage of it. So you're playing right into the system hand. You got good folks you got good and bad folks on both sides. But as a unit, you can overcome that. Now, I done fought a lot of battles alone. My wife and I, we went there. I have represented farmers that didn't even exist. But I had to do that to create opportunity for farmers that might exist. See, you got to do that because, and you know, I have spent money out of my pocket that normally somebody else should have spent. Trying to create opportunity, trying to buy time, you know, trying to buy time because you know it's critical. But, and y'all tell me when I got to cut off. But being a forward thinker, I saw again, I was running out of time. I was losing more farmers age-wise than I was gaining. When I first came to Maryland, I used to hold a meeting, I have 50 or 60 small farmers there. Now I probably couldn't have 5. Most of those guys came to my meetings and participated because they were living a dream that they couldn't live at that time because you know, a lot of the programs like your peanuts and all that, price support's being shut down. So a lot of those farmers that was farming had to get out of it because it wasn't profitable because they didn't have the number of acres to make everything paying out for its profit margin.